willing to pay for those facilities to be opened if new ones were going to be built?
I'd do something. We'd help them out. Yeah, we help them. They're great facilities, very strong facilities, and they don't play games. I'd like to go a step further. I mean, I said it to Pam. I don't know what the laws are. We always have to obey the laws, but we also have homegrown criminals that push people into subways, that hit elderly ladies on the back of the head with a baseball bat when they're not looking, that are absolute monsters. I'd like to include them in the group of people to get them out of the country, but you'll have to be looking at the laws on that, Steve, okay?
A few moments later.
Demanded the people wanted to change everything.
And they wanted. He demanded. They love you. They love what you do.
You know, I'm not feel supportive.
I want them to do, homegrown criminals next.
Yeah.
I said, homegrowns are next. The homegrowns. You got to build about 5 more places.
Yeah, that's fair.
All right? It's not big enough.
No, yeah.
Come on. So this is a much different office.
The president has discussed this idea quite a few times publicly. He's also discussed it privately. You're referring to the president's idea for American citizens to potentially be deported. These would be heinous, violent criminals who have broken our nation's laws repeatedly. And these are violent, repeat offenders in American streets. The president has said if it's legal, right, if there is a legal pathway to do that, he's not sure. We are not sure if there is. It's an idea that he has simply floated and has discussed very publicly as in the effort of
This is the
transparency.
worst moment in the Trump administration so far, and there are a lot of contenders, but this one is the worst. And it's the worst one yet because it's a direct attack on what makes America so great. We were founded on the checks and balances of the executive, legislative, and judicial branches of this country, and Donald Trump ignoring the Supreme Court to correct his own error, deporting an innocent man, is a very dangerous precedent. And the scariest part of this is that it really comes down to us to stop him, because if the Supreme Court isn't going to do it, it's really up to people in this country letting him know that this is not okay. And not just Democrats, not just people who lean to the left, people in the middle and people on the right who can look at this objectively and go, this is wrong. And if you're in the middle or on the right and you're not convinced, the fact that Donald Trump wants to send natural-born Americans to these El Salvadorian prisons should probably wake you up to the reality that he's trying to create in this country. This is the first moment in Trump's second term where I've actually been scared of what he's doing, because this is unprecedented territory, even for Donald Trump, and that is saying something. He is sending his darkest message yet, which essentially amounts to, if you don't agree with me, you might be in trouble for it.
You think it can't get any worse. I saw this on Tizzy Ent's page, and I saw the article, I saw the headline, but I'm like, oh, this can't be real. So I went and looked it up myself. El Salvador's president just offered to detain American citizens in his prisons. Yes, American citizens. So Marco Rubio met with the president of El Salvador, and the president basically said, we'll take deportees from the U.S. of any nationality. We'll even take your violent American criminals. Just send them here. And in return, the U.S. can fund our prison system. Trump kept talking about running this country like a business, but you're outsourcing prisoners? El Salvador's president is running one of the most anti-crime crackdowns in the world, and he wants the U.S. to help bankroll it. His prisons are massive. He's already locked up 2% of his own country, and now he's saying, hey, America, send your criminals too. This is giving real-life dystopia. But of course, I got some questions. Legally, can the U.S. deport its own citizens? And what happens if somebody gets wrongfully convicted and sent there? And do we really trust the U.S. not to abuse this system? I don't, because history says otherwise. They start with the violent criminals, and then suddenly the definition of criminal starts getting real flexible. First it's gang members, then it's protesters, then it's whoever they decide is a problem. Y'all paying attention?
Homegrowns are next. The homegrowns. You got to build about 5 more places.
Yeah, that's fair.
All right? It's not big enough.
No, yeah.
Come on. So this is a much different office than you're in.
He means you. You're homegrown. You're a citizen. You are homegrown. You're next. You're the person he's going to send to a prison in El Salvador next, without due process, without a criminal conviction. You're the person who, when the Supreme Court says you got to return him, he's going to say, no, I don't. No, I don't. You're next. You're next. How do you defend this? How do you even begin to defend this?
Trump
No.
said yesterday that he's planning on deporting American citizens and that he's hoping that El Salvador will build more prisons in order to hold those American citizens. And if there was any question about this, his press secretary was then asked, and she confirmed that yes, for quite some time we have been planning on deporting American citizens. And that whole phrase that when they came for immigrants, you said nothing. When they came for students, you said nothing. When they came for me, you said nothing. So there was no one left to defend. That is happening right now. The Supreme Court ruled 9-0 last week that the Trump administration needed to return an American resident that they deported illegally. And so if you believe that this is a constitutional republic, if you love this country because you think it's a constitutional republic, then you should absolutely be defending the immigrants who have come here legally and are being deported. And then you should absolutely be defending American citizens being deported. And so if you are not defending immigrants who came here legally, if you're not defending American citizens not being deported, you cannot say that you love this country, and you can absolutely not say that you are defending the Constitution or that you think that this is a constitutional republic at all.
Than what I usually post. I'm going to be speaking directly to conservatives in this video today, and I know that that is not who normally watches my content, but this is urgent. It is life and death urgent. So I'm asking you, please help me get this video in front of as many conservatives as you can. And please, do not flood the comments of this video with attacks or snark aimed at conservatives. I know how angry and scared we all are right now, but if we want to reach people, we need to speak in a way that they will actually hear. That is so much more important right now than getting in a good jab, okay? Deep breath. Here we go. Hi, I need to speak plainly to my conservative friends, and I hope that you will hear me out, not as an attack, but as a plea. Right now, the Trump administration is wrongfully arresting and deporting people who are legally in the United States. Kilmar Abrego Garcia, a father living in Maryland, was deported because of a government mistake. A mistake that the Trump administration has admitted was a mistake. The Supreme Court told the administration to bring him back, and they refused. Let that sink in. The executive branch is defying the authority of the highest court in the country. Another man, Mohsen Madawi, who already had a green card and has been studying to become a U.S. citizen after doing everything by the book, was in the middle of his citizenship interview today, a moment which he has waited for his entire life. And in the middle of that interview, ICE arrested him instead. And then there's 19-year-old Merrill Gutierrez. They deported him even after admitting, while arresting him, that he wasn't even the person they were looking for. This is no longer about enforcing laws. This is about abusing them. It isn't about border security either. This isn't about keeping people safe. This is cruelty for cruelty's sake. This is about power, fear, and control. And here is what you need to hear. If you stay silent now, history will remember that silence. You don't have to wear a uniform or hold a weapon to become a collaborator. Sometimes all it takes is looking away, saying nothing, choosing comfort over courage. That's what happened in Germany. Most Germans weren't soldiers. Most of them weren't even members of the Nazi Party, but they knew. They saw their neighbors disappear. They saw their laws twist into something unrecognizable, and they said nothing. And through their silence, they became collaborators. That is all that history will ever remember them as. Cowards and collaborators. And now we are at that fork in the road. This is that moment for you right now, because what's happening in our country is not just a disagreement over policy. It is now a moral crisis. You might think that you can sit this one out. You might think, well, I'm not doing it. I'm just staying out of politics. But silence in the face of this kind of injustice is a political choice. It is a betrayal of your faith, of your neighbors, and of this country. The rule of law is being trampled. Innocent people are being disappeared. Court orders are being ignored. And if you claim to love this country, if you believe in the Constitution, in due process, in order and justice, then this must be your line in the sand. Time is running out. If you stay silent now, you will spend the rest of your life knowing that you helped evil win. Not because you believed in it, but because you were too scared or too comfortable to fight it. Do not let that be your legacy.
Join me as I dive into the controversial topic of Trump's deportation plan for Americans and see if I can unpack the truth behind it. Trump's deportation plan has stunned the country, leaving many Americans wondering what this could mean for them and their loved ones. The plan has sparked intense debate and raised questions about its potential implications, from legal and ethical considerations to its impact on communities and the country as a whole. The idea of deporting American citizens is fraught with challenges and controversies. Legally, it's a complex issue, as American citizens have certain rights that are protected by the Constitution. Deporting citizens would require significant changes to existing laws and policies, which would likely face intense opposition from lawmakers and civil liberties groups. Many experts argue that such a plan would be unconstitutional and would violate the rights of American citizens. The ethical considerations are also significant, as deporting citizens would raise questions about their human rights and the potential consequences for their families and communities. Deporting American citizens would also have significant practical implications. It would require a massive infrastructure to support the deportation process, including detention centers, transportation, and personnel. The cost of such an operation would be staggering, and it's unclear who would bear the financial burden. Furthermore, the plan would likely face significant resistance from communities and advocacy groups, who would argue that it's unfair and unjust. The potential consequences for communities are also a major concern, as deporting citizens could lead to the breakup of families and the destruction of social networks. The plan has also sparked concerns about racial and social justice. Many critics argue that the plan would disproportionately affect certain communities, particularly communities of color. The potential for racial profiling and discrimination is high, and many advocates are sounding the alarm about the potential consequences. The plan has also raised questions about the role of law enforcement in the deportation process, and whether they would be empowered to make decisions about who to deport. The potential for abuse of power is significant, and many are calling for greater transparency and accountability.
NBC Boston exclusive, a Boston resident getting a shocking email from the federal government, an immigration notice saying she had to leave the country immediately, even though she's a U.S. citizen. Michael Rosenfield has the story you'll only see right here on NBC Boston.
When Massachusetts resident Nicole Micciarone received this email on Friday telling her to leave the country, she was baffled.
At first I thought it was for a client, but I looked really closely and the only name on the email was mine. So it said that my parole status had been terminated and I should leave the country within 7 days.
But the 40-year-old is a U.S. citizen, born in Newton and raised in Sharon.
Probably, hopefully sent to me in error. But it's a little concerning that these are going out to U.S. citizens.
Micciarone is an immigration attorney working with many clients facing possible deportation issues, so her name and email are on a lot of paperwork.
The language in the email is very threatening, and it looks kind of like a sketchy spam email. It doesn't look like an official government notice.
But it is.
But it is.
In a statement, a senior Department of Homeland Security official told us Customs and Border Protection is issuing notices terminating parole for individuals who do not have lawful status to remain. And CBP used the known email addresses of the alien to send notifications. If a non-personal email, such as an American citizen contact, was provided by the alien, notices may have been sent to unintended recipients. CBP is monitoring communications and will address any issues on a case-by-case basis.
I think it's really scary that this is going on. It says that they're not being very careful.
Micciarone posted about the email on social media and has received thousands of responses from around the world.
I think it's a scare tactic.
Both the President of the United States States and the president of El Salvador are both refusing to return the wrongfully deported Maryland man back to the United States, despite there being a court order for this to be done. Now, the Trump administration, this administration standing 10 toes down on refusing to return a wrongfully deported man, literally shows us that we're all in for a way bigger problem. We heard at the beginning of this presidency, of this administration, that he was going to try to find legal ways to have American citizens deported, okay? We know that that is illegal. However, we also know that this is what he's been trying to do. This was the rumor that he wanted to do it. And a lot of us felt like, you know what, it's really probably BS because it's illegal. But look at what's going on now. And in that conversation, when he met up with the president of El Salvador, they actually caught a little bit of the conversation on his mic, him promising the president of El Salvador that he was going to figure out a way to send homegrowns, yes, that's what he calls American citizens, homegrowns, to prison in El Salvador, and told the El Salvador president that he's going to need to build about 5 more places to be able to house all of y'all. Again, this is coming from MSN.com. So Trump's administration has already deported immigrants to El Salvador's notorious mega prison, CECOT, known for its harsh conditions. And that's really the reason why they don't want that man to come back here, because not only did they send him there illegally, but when he comes back here, he's going to be able to tell everybody exactly what they're doing to those prisoners over there. We know that it's known for its harsh conditions, as listed right here in the article. So when he comes back, if he can come back, you understand, he's going to be able to say exactly what the fuck they've been doing to him in there. And that's going to look really bad for both El Salvador and for Donald Trump. Let's keep reading, though. It states here that the president also said in his administration that he's trying to find legal ways to ship U.S. citizens there, too. Trump on Monday insisted that these would just be violent people, implying that they would be those already convicted of crimes in the United States, though he has also floated it as a punishment for those who attacked Tesla dealerships to protest his administration and his friend billionaire Elon Musk. Now, the problem is it would most likely be illegal because it's a violation of the U.S. Constitution for his administration to send any native-born citizen forcibly to an overseas prison. But that's what he's trying to figure out what to do.
It's a little hard to hear, but if you listen closely, you can just make out the president is saying as he enters the Oval Office today with the president of El Salvador.
Criminals next. I said homegrowns are next. The homegrowns built. You got to build about 5 more places. Yeah, that's fair. All right.
Laughter all around. That was Donald Trump today talking to the president of El Salvador, a man who calls himself the world's coolest dictator. And you could hear there what sounded like Trump promising that he's about to send to...
I'm not going to lie. You MAGA people, y'all low-key kind of really fucked up. Because it's going to be you guys that get deported over to them overseas prisons. You guys are notoriously, statistically known, historically known for committing some of the most heinous crimes in the world. See, Black and Hispanic people are usually being incarcerated on drug-related crimes. And they're given the maximum because they want to be able to have slaves again. But see, you guys, y'all like to do the serial killer. Y'all like to do that. Y'all like to lead somebody in a disclosed area, dark, make them think that they all good. Fuck their dead, decapitated body. That's what you guys do. That's what you do. So you guys are going to be the ones that's sent over there. Native born, and as he calls you, homegrowns. You homegrowns is going to be the ones sent over there.
Breaking news, no fluff, just the facts. Trump says he wants to imprison U.S. citizens in El Salvador. No real need to worry except for one loophole. As we all probably know, on Monday, Trump reiterated that he'd like to send U.S. citizens who commit violent crimes to prisons in El Salvador. But we got this little thing called the Constitution. Now, immigrants can be deported from the U.S. while citizens cannot. Deportation is covered by immigration law, which does not apply to U.S. citizens. Part of being a citizen means you cannot be forcibly sent to another country. Now, immigrants can be removed, and that's what's happening in El Salvador. The U.S. has sent people to El Salvador, Costa Rica, Panama, and elsewhere, even when they are not citizens of those countries. But under international agreements, people cannot be sent to countries where they are likely to be persecuted or tortured. Basically, it's a tactic sending a message to would-be migrants elsewhere about the risks of trying to make it or stay in the United States. Now, there's a second benefit to the administration. People sent to El Salvador are outside the jurisdiction of United States courts. Judges, the administration argues, can't order someone sent to El Salvador to be released or shipped back to the U.S. because the U.S. government no longer has control of them. Now, the Supreme Court has already ruled for the administration to turn around the plans that they're sending to El Salvador, which has been ignored. The Supreme Court also ordered the administration to facilitate the return of the man that was falsely sent to El Salvador, which doesn't look like it's going to happen either. The United States does have extradition treaties with several countries where it will send a citizen accused of a crime in that country to face trial there. That appears to be the only existing way a U.S. citizen can be forcibly removed from the country under current law. Also, the Constitution prohibits cruel and unusual punishment, which is a selling point that the conditions in El Salvador are much harsher than the prisons here in the U.S. But the federal courts have no jurisdiction there, and they may deprive people sent there of the constitutional guarantee of due process of law. Now back to that loophole I was telling you about. There is one potential loophole that the administration could use to send a small group of citizens to El Salvador. People who are made U.S. citizens after birth can lose that status for a handful of offenses like funding bad organizations or lying on naturalization forms. They would then revert to green card holders and would potentially be eligible for deportation if convicted of other serious crimes. Now, even though that's a small group of people, that is a pool of people. So if you were born in the United States of America and you are a citizen, you cannot be deported to another country, no matter how severity the offense. So in fact, they are not able to or legally able to extradite you to another country. So there's nothing to worry about. And that's
so
facts.
Trump mentioned that homegrown criminals are going to go to El Salvador. Today he spoke with the El Salvador president, and guess what? He said homegrown, and everybody's losing their fucking mind like dumbasses. Now they're saying, oh, you're going to be next. Look, Chinese, Asian, black, if you're homegrown and you're from the United States of America, you're going to be next. You're going to go to El Salvador. Lie. People on here irritate my fucking soul because sometimes I just want to see some news, some good content. But instead, people are putting fear in people's hearts thinking that they're going to go to El Salvador. Bro, please, cut the shit. Some of you guys are fucking complete ass. Okay? Yes, if you're homegrown and you're a fucking criminal, you're going to jail in El Salvador. Oh my God. It's almost like you guys are against criminals being criminals. Like you support criminals being criminals. Something needs to happen to these criminals, just like with that dude with the Tesla situation at the dealerships. Somebody needs to be held accountable. Yes, all of them need to be held accountable. Homegrown, Chinatown, don't fucking matter. Wherever you're from, and if you're a criminal, you're going to El Salvador. Have a good time. I hope you enjoy that El Salvador food, because I'm pretty sure it's not as good as the United... Okay.
If you plan to enter the U.S. illegally, your chances of getting caught and sent back just went up. If you're a criminal, you'll be deported. What I'm describing is accountability, a common sense middle ground approach.
The plan has sparked a heated debate about the role of the government in regulating immigration and citizenship. Many advocates are arguing that the plan is an overreach of executive power and that it would be a violation of the Constitution. Others are arguing that the plan is necessary to protect national security and maintain the rule of law. The debate has been intense and passionate, with many people weighing in on social media and in public forums. The potential consequences of the plan are significant, and many are calling for a more thoughtful and considered approach. A key moment in the debate came when Trump's hot mic caught him announcing the plan, sparking widespread outrage and criticism. Most likely the announcement will be met with protests and demonstrations across the country as people express their opposition.
27-year-old Felipe
The moment was
Zapata
significant
Velasquez
because
gets
it marked
pulled
a
over
turning
by
point
Gainesville
in the
police.
debate, with many people
Felipe tells
realizing
him
the potential
yes, and that he's an
consequences of the plan.
international
The
student
reaction
at the
from the public
University of
was
Florida.
intense, with many people expressing fear and anxiety about the potential consequences of the plan. The moment also sparked a national conversation about immigration and citizenship, with many people weighing in on social media and in public forums.
No. So what does this mean? Well, it means America is now lawless. It means the American president, if no one does anything, can label anyone a terrorist, and that person can be kidnapped and sent to a death camp in a foreign country without trial. Trump has already admitted he won't be stopping at foreign-born legal residents. In fact, our president was caught on a hot mic after the press conference asking the El Salvadorian president to build more prisons so we could house homegrowns, meaning U.S. citizens he believes are criminals or a threat to his regime. But if an innocent father working as a union apprentice is a terrorist, what's a politician who speaks against him? A journalist who prints something he doesn't like? A citizen who criticizes his policies? We just watched the president of a country known for human rights violations tell the American president that to liberate his 350 million people, he's going to have to imprison some. And our president and our vice president and our attorney general agreed. So I need you to understand that if the American president can just claim a national emergency and disappear people without due process, there's not a single person in this country who is safe. Our Constitution is null and void, and fascism is here. Now I'm going to be calling Congress to insist they act, because this is an impeachable offense and Donald Trump should be impeached and removed from office. But since I have very little faith in Congress, I am also going to speak to our veteran friends and active duty military so they understand exactly what's happening here and they can get right with the oath they took to protect the Constitution of the United States and the freedom it affords its citizens against enemies both foreign and domestic. This is the moment, America. What we do now will resonate through the ages. Is this who we are? Is this what we allow? Will we continue to just put our heads down and hope for the best, or do we stand up and get loud and collectively reject this sickness, this criminal, lawless administration? Because this is no longer about politics. It is about identity and morality and justice. So pick a side. Are we a democracy or are we a dictatorship?
The potential consequences of the plan to possibly deport Americans are significant, and many are calling for the citizens and politicians to start fighting. Even MAGA needs to take some time and think about the impact this would make. And don't think you cannot be affected, because all it would take is a lie, a setup, a mistake, and you could be right on one of those planes. Let me know what you think about Trump's deportation plan in the comments below, and don't forget to check out my other videos on similar topics.
But we've been fortunately winning those cases, but we have judges that are out of control that say, oh, bring them back, bring them back. We don't want them back. We don't want them back. Can you imagine? You spend all of that time, energy, and money on getting them out, and then you have a judge that sits there, a local judge who sits there, federal judges, sits there and says, no, bring them back.